Hello and welcome to Showcase. Turkey is mourning the death of the father of Turkish rock, Erkin Koray. He was not only adored for his original works, but also for his Turkish folk music adaptations. Here's a look back at his legacy.
Veteran rock musician Erkin Koray has died at the age of 82 in Toronto. His daughter Damla Koray announced the news and added that a commemoration event for Koray's fans will be planned in the upcoming days. Koray was born in 1941 in Istanbul. His mother taught him how to play the piano, and after that, he took guitar lessons. He first started playing his contemporary pieces in the 1950s as part of his band called Erkin Koray and the Rhythmists. During his time in Germany, he was a member of another band called the Hiccups. Koray released a set of English songs in 1966, but it was his Turkish songs Kızları da Alın Askere and Aşk Oyunu that brought him success across the country in 1967. From 1973 to 1999, Koray released 15 solo albums. He became one of the major figures in Turkish psychedelic music and Anatolian rock. He's also considered one of the pioneers of electric bağlama, an amplified model of the traditional Turkish instrument. Some of his greatest hits include Arap Saçı, Yalnızlar Rıhtımı, and Çöpçüler, not to mention his Turkish folk music adaptations, Cemal'ım to Köprüden Geçti Gelin. And then there's this song. He released Bir Eylül Akşamı in 1966. It wasn't such a big hit like the others, but it had stirred some debate as it's quite similar to the Rolling Stones' Paint It Black that was released after Koray's track. A month before his death, Koray had announced he was going to release a new album after more than 2 decades. Whether that happens posthumously or not, for his fans, Koray's pool of pioneering songs will never get old.
In many ways, American singer Sixto Rodriguez was the original man of mystery. The Detroit native went about his business for years without knowing he was in fact an international star. But even after finding out, he still kept himself away from the media. The enigmatic singer recently died at 81, and perhaps now is the perfect time to go behind the smoke screen of his mystique.
Sixto Rodriguez began his rocking journey back in the late 1960s. But he was such an obscure artist that even his record company shelved his deal. That didn't end Rodriguez's journey, however. Far from it. He managed to find fans far and wide, in places like South Africa and Australia. That was mainly due to bootleg copies of his album making it to those shores. And his music would become the voice of protest against segregation in Africa. That cult following stayed loyal to him, even when he was off the radar. So much so that back in 2012, 2 South African filmmakers made the documentary Searching for Sugar Man about the man to find out what happened to him.
We thought he was like the inner city poet.
There was good reason for the curiosity among his fans, as there were even rumors he had actually ended his life on stage. But the thing was that Rodriguez simply just went back home to Detroit and began working in the construction business. He wasn't even aware that he had made it big abroad. He only got to find out about it when his daughter discovered a website dedicated to him. And just like that, he was back in business and started touring to sell out shows. The musician called his entire journey a great odyssey, and it's an odyssey many of his fans also got to share. even though he may not have been aware.
Next day, he says, Emerson, I gotta go on.
Not every filmmaker can claim to have succeeded in what William Friedkin accomplished in a career that spanned over 5 decades. He made successful movies in almost every genre and helped elevate the stars that he employed along the way. And in the wake of his passing at the age of 87, we decided to look at how he went about doing that.
What do you mean you don't know?
Get a train down to Baltimore. Go to Pier 47.
Where am I going? Where am I going?
William Friedkin started in the moving image business by directing television projects and documentaries. Then he gradually turned to features and became associated with New Hollywood, which emerged in the 1960s. But his ties to the movement has more to do with his innovative cinematic style, rather than being a part of the fraternity that includes the likes of Martin Scorsese and Brian De Palma. Friedkin worked in various genres, and with an approach that defied rules, he reinvented them. But what catapulted him to the top was the French Connection. The film became one of the most successful titles of 1971. Friedkin brought unrestrained energy to crime cinema and a filmmaking style that was inspired by documentaries. Roger Ebert praised that style by saying it's a new kind of film, despite using ancient material like cops and crooks.
What the hell do you mean going off and leaving Reagan by herself? Are you crazy? Her window's wide open, the whole room is freezing.
Didn't he tell you?
Didn't who tell me?
Burke isn't...
What's Burke got to do with it?
Next, Friedkin set his sights on horror. His adaptation of The Exorcist would become the highest-grossing movie Warner Brothers ever released.
Hi, Chuck, come on in.
Suppose you heard.
Heard what?
Burke's dead.
That success is attributed to him modernizing the genre. Until then, Gothic stories had filled seats in theaters, but The Exorcist introduced contemporary fears as their heir.
I'm an arms dealer. My partners and I are going to make the deal of the century. Now, here's a little something I kind of enjoy. Let's say you've had a rough day of guerrilla warfare. The revolution's getting bogged down. You're hot, you're tired, you smell like you smell now.
The late filmmaker also tackled other forms of filmmaking, like comedy and drama, and left a body of work that not only broke new ground, but also encouraged the next generation of filmmakers to keep bending the rules.
And the enemy is not Moscow. The enemy is Rockwell, Northrop, Lockheed.
I don't want to be a part of that anymore, Ed.
Take a couple of samples, take them home, see if you like them, let me know how many you need.
Before air conditioners, there were bed gears, aka wind catchers. And today, this example of ancient bioclimatic design continues to inspire architects around the world.
Yazd is a city in Iran that's considered one of the hottest in the world. But thanks to its famous badgirs, which is Persian for wind catcher, the extreme temperatures remain bearable. These elegant towers, which surmount the flat roofs of the historic centre, are considered the ecological ancestors of air conditioning. And for one French-Iranian architect, the way badgirs function will always be an inspiration. They demonstrate that simplicity that can be an essential attribute of sustainability, belying the widespread idea that sustainable solutions must necessarily be complex or high-tech. Kamaraji says Masdar City in Abu Dhabi is a modern example of how natural ventilation can be used for cooling, just like Badgir's. For instance, this one, that sits at the Dawlatabad Garden, is the highest in the world.
Thanks to the house's design, the Bagdir allows refreshing air to enter and stay inside. The use of clean and readily available energy has significantly contributed to enhancing the overall quality of life in a natural way.
Olumi adds that when it comes to sustainability, there's no other like Badgir's.
This is one of the valuable heritages that our ancestors have given us. And unfortunately, today we are harming the environment with materials that are incompatible with our climate.
And another specialty in Yazd that architects are interested in are kanats. These ancient narrow underground galleries carry water from the mountains or groundwater to places of life.
The subterranean aqueducts are highly useful as they provide a reliable source of water and enable the cooling of houses and the preservation of food at optimal temperatures.
The Iranian state wants to preserve both kanats and Badgir's because, as Montazer points out, once fossil fuels run out, we'll probably have to go back to the methods that have already been proven in Yazd.
Swiss artist Marianne Dubuis is reinventing the traditional art of Swiss paper cutting. She adds a modern touch to the art that typically depicts nature and the Alps with images of buildings from present-day Switzerland.
With a slim cutter in hand, Marianne Dubuis stares intently through a magnifying glass to carve out a delicate picture. Swiss paper cutting traditionally depicts landscapes and cows in pastures, but Dubuis adds a personal touch by infusing her work with a large dose of poetry and modernity.
Alors moi, je suis très fière du découpage, de ce que ça représente.
So I'm very proud of paper cutting, of what it represents of Switzerland. It's also a way of representing our values, or our traditions, our roots, and so on. Because sometimes the Swiss are a bit quiet, and we also find it hard to express emotions in words. So these are all things that can be expressed in images, in cutouts, because it's a simple technique.
Encore moins en montagne.
Dubuis has been paper cutting since she was a child. She spends 6 hours a day on her art, and her works have been exhibited in Switzerland, France, Germany, and as far away as Japan. Her cuttings sell for tens of thousands of dollars and reflect her emotions while telling a story.
Tout ça, ça me remplit d'émotions, ça me remplit de sensations.
All this fills me with emotions. It fills me with sensations. And I'm lucky enough to be able to keep them as sensations. When I get home, I take everything I've felt and I try to represent them. Not as I saw them, clearly, so it won't look like a photo, but as I felt it. And it's more emotions that I'm going to put on paper, rather than reality.
Plutôt des émotions que je vais poser sur le papier, plutôt que la réalité.
In these modern times, innovations are taking over the traditional art, with laser cuts becoming more popular. But Dubuis is not worried.
Quand vous voyez une découpe réalisée à la main.
When you see a handmade cut with its own expressiveness, or laser cut or a cutout photo, there's something about the emotion that you feel. You can't necessarily explain it, but laser cutting, for example, is flat. There's a soul missing, there's something missing, and that's what I see with my customers or visitors who say, "We feel emotion in your art, we feel the heart." And they couldn't say that, I'm sure, for something that's been laser cut or copied or photographed.
Dubuis says tradition dies only if we keep doing the same things over and over. That's why she weaves modernity into tradition to carve out images of Switzerland today.
Researchers at the Palestinian Eyes on Heritage Foundation are hard at work to restore and preserve old manuscripts and documents. The aim is to protect Gaza's cultural and historical heritage. Let's take a look.
9 female researchers in Gaza have taken up the tedious task of reviving these historical books and archaeological manuscripts. The project was started by the Eyes on Heritage Foundation.
The foundation took the initiative to save and collect all that remains of the cultural heritage in Gaza City and southern Palestine, because much of this heritage has been stolen, looted, burned, and destroyed by war and repeated attacks by the Israeli occupation.
The collection has mostly been obtained through donations from Palestinian families, but there has also been some contribution from abroad.
In 2022, the foundation received generous funding from the British Library and the Hill Museum to support the restoration and digitization of these manuscripts and documents. They are invaluable, rare representations of the Palestinian memory of Gaza City.
Most of the manuscripts are works of Palestinian scholars who chronicled the region's history during the Ottoman period. But restoring them to their old glory is far from easy.
In the restoration process, we use set of tools such as brushes, sponges made of vinyl fibers, loops, and set of medical tools, including spatulas and tweezers.
The final aim is to open a museum for the collection and show tourists from all over the world how rich Gazan culture really is.
Invasion of Planet Earth is a popular sci-fi subject. Each decade, the small screen produces its own social commentary on the matter. And Invasion, as you can probably guess from the title, brings that kind of storytelling to the 2020s.
Invasion is the classic chestnut. Extraterrestrials come to Earth with one thing in mind: to take over our planet. The show approaches the theme with an ensemble piece. We see people from various walks of life respond to the chaos as they lead ordinary lives. But each cast member has their own dramatic journey, and that brings a character-driven quality. And reviews say that also makes the series about people and not aliens.
Is not on our Earth.
But this type of narrative is not something new. It's a tradition that has been going on for decades. The 1980s had Visitors. The 2000s had Taken. The former was really a commentary on fascism, and the latter was about the evils mankind do to each other. Invasion is the latest addition to that lore, and critics say it's really about ecology and human arrogance, as the aliens actually do end up, in Screen Rant's words, erasing humanity's scorched environmental footprint. The show now returns for its second season. In the previous finale, the aliens were thought to be defeated with nuclear weapons. American and Japanese armies had taken the credit for the supposed win. But that was only the first wave of the aliens' attacks. More than 100 days later, they strike again. The new season reportedly will find aliens seeking to corrupt lead characters. Sheriff Tyson's expected to come back under the control of the ETs. Luke also becomes fixated to the item he's been carrying in the previous episodes, and it's hinted he's also under suspicion.
Connection. It's the only chance we'll have to learn what they want.
The themes of humanity's own negative impact on the environment will also continue. And critics say, regardless of a truce between humans and aliens, in the coming episodes, humanity must make peace among themselves first. That remark could hold up in real life as well. And perhaps that's what makes science fiction transcend the limits of the small screen.
The world out there is falling apart.
When hip-hop was born in the Bronx, it wasn't the most prized musical genre. But over time, it not only got popular around the world, but became more than just music. And New Yorkers right now are celebrating its 50th anniversary. From a display of Jay-Z lyrics on the facade of the Brooklyn Library to a concert of rap pioneers at Yankee Stadium. This is the time for New York to celebrate 50 years of hip-hop. Although the exact date isn't clear, many musicologists believe that August 11, 1973 was the day when hip-hop was born during a house party. And for many Bronx residents, those parties brought the community together when they suffered some of the worst effects of a nationwide economic turmoil that was particularly acute in New York. So hip-hop was a way of stress relief.
So August 11th, 1973, Kool Herc, a DJ from the Bronx, and his sister had a party in 1520 Sedgwick Avenue. It was in a project building in the basement. They used to have rooms where you could have little parties, birthday party, your grandma's parties, you know, anything that you wanted to do, celebrate an anniversary, you could do all of that in that room. That party is the beginning and the spark that set off all of this for all the other DJs. Because hip hop starts with the DJ.
What's now referred to as old school hip hop began developing in the 1970s into the early 1980s as the music went from the block to the nightclub. The classic DJ MC live performance eventually saw the rap go commercial and find resounding success. But even as it flourished, hip-hop's stories remained rooted in experiences of injustice and inequality. And in the 2000s, rappers including Kanye West, Jay-Z, Cardi B, and Drake produced massive hits.
To be celebrating 50 years is amazing because there was no value on this when we first started. Nobody was interested in hiring a hip-hop DJ or getting an MC to get on the mic, or getting some breakdancers to come out and perform on the stage, or using graffiti on a library card like we did today.
Eventually, hip-hop became a lifestyle, culture, and genre all at once. And although hip-hop is now more a global influence than a musical genre, many say it still best reflects its birthplace, New York. Hong Kong-based ceramicist Leo Wong creates vibrant, floral-inspired sculptures. His deep fascination with flowers and the ceramic art has led the artist on a quest to employ modern techniques in recreating the beauty of nature.
Leo Wong's interest in ceramic art goes back to his childhood. Growing up in his grandparents' garden ignited a fondness for nature, leading him to create flower sculptures that are not only beautiful, but also lifelike.
My works can't look artificial. The flowers need to be asymmetric. Each petal differs from the other in shape and position. I want my flowers to look as if they were blown by the wind. I want to showcase motion in calmness and to see life in my flowers.
Among all flowers, peony holds a special place in Wong's heart, and the beauty of the peony is inspired by the poetry of Chinese dynasties.
I love the poetry of the Tang and Song dynasties, especially the poetry of the Song dynasty. So I want to incorporate the beauty of its poetry into my flowers. I studied not only how to achieve the effect of resemblance in shape, but resemblance in spirit in my works. I think that is the difference between my works and other ceramic flowers made at all times and in all over the world.
In July, Wong displayed his art at the French May Arts Festival. The exhibit, titled Chinoiserie, Enduring Allure of the Far East, was well appreciated by the visitors. His art pieces have been acquired by notable companies such as Chanel, Van Cleef & Arpels, and the Peninsula, Hong Kong.
Flowers may fall to the ground and turn into dust, but their essence will ever be sweet. They will wither in 2 weeks and turn into dust. People often say fallen flowers turn into spring soil to nourish blooms. So I studied how to give eternal life to flowers. I turned them into ceramics.
Wang's creations attach importance to the expression of vitality and embrace flowers at different phases of blooming to depict the cycle of life.
That's it for this episode of Showcase. I'm Estad, just from me and the whole team here in Istanbul. Thanks so much for watching. Bye for now.